Things are ticking along nicely for Nigel Clough's men as the season begins with a point on the road and a comfortable cup win at home. But can the Stags maintain their rhythm and turn the early optimistic hope into something more fruitful? Tonight we'll reflect on the opening day at Crewe as the Stags surrender a 2-goal lead, lose a man and play until gone midnight. Alright, slight exaggeration, but you know what we're talking about. Plus, we'll chat all things Carabao Cup as Mansfield enjoy cruise control at home against Grimsby. We'll also talk about early standouts, tactical thoughts and much more in between, including your comments, questions and opinions from the live feed. So you know what to do. Get involved in the comments now and have your say on your team. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast. It's the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Hello, good evening and welcome to not Mansfield Matters HQ. Tonight we're bringing you the podcast, or I'm bringing you the podcast from a Premier Inn in Cardiff work trip, but I'm representing the Stags. I've got my Stag shirt on and if I see any Newport fans in the lobby downstairs, I'll give them some stick. Fortunately, joining me to bring a little bit of Mansfield back to the proceedings, it's the man who literally has Mansfield in his name. He's the man who goes around begging players for shirts. Let's say hello, good evening to Nick of Mansfield Town Shirts fame. Evening, Nick.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
Very good. Good to have you with us again. The voice of the Stags, although he's not really got much of a voice tonight, it's Mr. Alan Wilson.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, Nick. Good evening, everybody.
And making his debut on the Mansfield Matters podcast tonight, a Stags fan who lives just a stone's throw from where I used to live. But as soon as he speaks, you'll think, did you used to live in Canada, Craig? No, I did not. His name is Taras. Good evening and welcome to the podcast.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
As you're a guest and joining us tonight, Taras, before we delve into the show, just let people know a little bit more about you, really. Give us a little bit of an insight into you and how you've come to watch the Stags.
Sure thing. Yeah. So I moved here 4 years ago, just before COVID was declared a pandemic. Timed it just perfectly. Obviously, for my first year here, we weren't allowed in stadiums, so. The link is my dad was born in Mansfield, born and raised. He went out to Canada in the early 80s, had me. So he's been watching Stags since he was just since he was a young kid, really. And then I moved here, and then he moved back 6 months after me. Once we were all allowed back in stadiums, I just kind of ran it past him. Do you want to get a season ticket? Just something for him and I to do together. So I guess this is our third season now having season tickets, and really gotten into supporting and following Mansfield Town, and don't get to every away game, but obviously we're at every home game, and we were at Crewe on Saturday. Been to a few away games through since we became season ticket holders, but that's basically my story and where I'm at.
And where is the seat when you're at home games? Where is Taras's view usually from?
Ian Greaves upper. So basically just above the Mansfield bench.
Yeah. Which block? Give us specifics, because I'm N, so whereabouts are you?
We are I'm trying to think what block we are. Are you in the middle?
Yeah, so we're the media boxes, where the press box is in halfway line. I'm just to the left of that as you look.
We're just to the right, so we must be block.
Yeah, I think you're L then. Yeah,
L. Yeah, block L. Yeah.
So we're basically parallels, really. You're on one side, so you're in one half, I'm in the other. So
more or less. Yeah,
absolutely. And obviously, you mentioned that you've been watching Stags a couple of years, and you got into it through your dad. How are you finding it as a more of a fresh-faced Mansfield fan? You optimistic? What sort of gave you the bug when you first first went through the turnstiles?
Well, the first season that we were allowed back in stadiums was, I thought it was a really good season. Probably the highlight so far would be the 2-0 away victory at Bradford. That was a good day out. Reece Oates put us 1-0 up, and probably one of the best goals I've seen live. That whole season, I just felt like a sense of camaraderie around the club. Just felt like a good connection, kind of a good family club to follow. Obviously, like you said, they're just on my doorstep. So last season, obviously disappointing just to finish outside the playoffs, just as cruelly as it was. But it's been a good start to this season. Hopefully, can build on that on Saturday against Morecambe, and hopefully can actually get the job done this season.
Yeah, fingers crossed that we can. Well, it's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for coming on tonight and taking the place of Clive, who can't be with us this evening. Neither can Cam nor Nathan, who, to be fair to him, is a little bit busy. And we might get Nick back later. We're not quite sure. I know he's playing the role of dad tonight, and so he may pop on a little bit later on. Alan, I'll come to you, even though I'll try to use you as I'll give you as long as gap as I can tonight, because I know you want to save the voice for Saturday, don't you? You've come down with a bit of a bug. Alan Wilson's turned into Alan Barry White Wilson tonight.
I don't know where it's come from, Craig. All this lovely weather, and all of a sudden I've got a cold from I don't know where.
Oh.
So it is what it is. So we'll carry on anyway. It's not a problem.
Absolutely. As always, as well, you guys at home can get involved and have your say on your team in the comments. All you need to do is leave us a comment, question or opinion, and we'll try and read it out during the show, just like Jamie's done to kick us off tonight. Hi, guys. He says, it's a shame about Saturday, but a good draw in the end. Played well on Tuesday night. And do you think we would have signed Flint if Dave Sharp was there? Taras, I'll start with you. We'll go on the Flint signing. I think it's been one in which has been in the works for a while. I'm not entirely sure it's that there's much of an impact that someone like David Sharp would have had, other than basically being the one to sign it off, dot the I's and cross the T's.
You look at Aidan Flint. I mean, I can't think of a bigger player that Stag signed when David Sharp was at the club. So it's a complete hypothetical, really. But terrific signing. Obviously, his pedigree speaks for himself. He's played how many EFL games, league games. He's always played at a higher level. Obviously, I know he was on loan at Sheffield Wednesday, who obviously got in the League Cup last night in the draw. But yeah, incredible signing. I think it gives Clough a good problem to have at the back. He's kind of spoiled for choice at the back, assuming everyone stays fit. But I mean, it's tough to say whether or not he would have come if David Sharp was still at the club. From how I understand it, it was more of a proximity to where he's from and kind of a location of where the club, where Mansfield is, because he's a local guy, I believe. So I'm happy with the signing. I think it immediately just sort of gives you that presence at the back, which I think Kilgore gives, but obviously Flint just a little bit more experienced.
We saw it on Saturday, Alan, when he had to come off the bench when we went down to 10 men. And then, of course, we saw more of Flint on Tuesday night, where he played 70-odd minutes against Grimsby. And it's exactly what we expected of him, isn't he? He's just calm, commanding, and a real presence in both boxes.
Yeah, and he reminds me very much of Brian Kilcline. Very, very same stature, heads the ball. There's no nonsense, but he can do a pass. I was quite surprised on Tuesday. Obviously, Nigel's taking the idea of that he wants them to play out all the time, which works 90% of the time. But the balls the two are playing out, he'd got no problem, and I do like the looks of him. I think Cargill might start sweating for his position if he gets fitter.
Yeah, I think so. It'll be a tough choice back there. Nick, welcome back. We'll try and get you a word in before you have to run off and play Daddy Night Care again. Obviously, on Tuesday night, we're just talking about Aidan Flint there. We saw him get 70 minutes. We saw him come off the bench as well at Crewe. And like Alan was just saying there, he's exactly what we expected from him, calm and commanding. And I think Nigel Clough will have a tough choice on his hands, won't he? Once everyone's back fit and available.
Yeah, I think he might go with Flint on Saturday. I thought he made one mistake at Crewe, didn't he, with the ball bounced, and somehow, despite the size of him, it somehow bounced over his head. But after that, I thought he looked different class, didn't he? I can't see many people getting near him in the air, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? He wins the ball in both boxes, which is massive for us. We do struggle with height sometimes in there, but Cargill's an interesting one because Clough seems to like him, so. It's interesting to see what he does on Saturday. But I find it difficult to leave Flint out, I think.
Well, it's an interesting one with Cargill because obviously, trying to sort of pick between him and Flint for your centre half pairing, it really is a difficult one. But then we had the red card at Crewe, and I don't know about anyone else. Taras, maybe you can throw in on this. I actually thought when Cargill went to left back or left side centre half, and Aiken sort of dropped in at left wing back for a little bit as well, I thought he looked really comfortable, and actually I wouldn't be too surprised to see him start in a back four at left back on Saturday against Morecambe.
I said the exact same thing to my dad because obviously they've got Bowery who's coming back, and I said to my dad when obviously McDonald got sent off and they moved Cargill over after they brought Flint on, I said to my dad, he looks really adaptable and looked really comfortable. And like I said earlier, I think it's a good problem for Clough to have. Assuming everyone's fit, obviously people are going to be competing for positions. But Cargill was probably definitely one of my shouts for men of the match on Saturday. I thought he just looked. Like I said, really comfortable, really fluid, didn't really put a foot wrong. And yeah, absolutely. It's, if we can avoid having Bowery back there, I'd much rather have Cargill at left back.
Yeah, I certainly think that you would tend to go with more of an actual natural defender. But I think, like Craig says in the comments, Alan, we're clearly learning from last season. Joint top scorers, but ship goals. Defensive recruitment has been great, and we're demonstrating those intentions are from the start of this season.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, definitely. But it's just a shame, isn't it? Although I did see Aaron Lewis have a bit of a long throw. I don't know whether that's in his armoury, but it's a shame we haven't got Hewitt or Bottle to put the ball where it hurts for Flint to do the damage.
I'm just starting to drool thinking about Hewitt launching a long throw and Flint getting on the end of it. Honestly, that's the one thing I think you can basically have a klaxon that Craig will talk about this every single podcast, and that is the fact that if we had a long throw, you might as well just hand us the title because. Honestly, with that back line and a long throw, I think we'd cause some real damage. Scott in the comments says, generally the clubs approach players or agents in transfer deals. But with regards to Flint, I have a feeling his agent approached us. Rumour was QPR wanted him. Both Clough and Flint referenced the location was key. Otherwise, he was very out of our league. Let's be honest. Just my thought on the deal. Either way, I think it's a win-win to have him in our defence. And do you know what? Sometimes, Taras, these things do fall into your hands. And if you've got a good, stable manager, a good reputation as a club, and you're constantly up there, especially for a player of his age, it's no wonder that he wants to come and slot in and be stable. And after moving up and down the country for the last few years in his career, be a little bit more close to home, almost back on the doorstep of where he started, back at Alfreton.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at his age, I don't know what his family situation's like, but I know I believe he did have interest from QPR. I mean, at his age, moving down to London at this stage of his career, let's be honest, I think they're going to struggle this season. I think they're in real trouble in the Championship. So he's probably got more of an opportunity to have a better season with Mansfield if we're going to be pushing for promotion, as opposed to a club like QPR who seems like just in a bit of a mess on and off the pitch. So absolutely use it to your advantage. Like we were just discussing before we went live, it's a good place in England. It's central to almost everything. So absolutely, if you can use that to your advantage, go for it.
Not quite sure you'll be saying that after you've lived there for 32 years, but There you go. Keep your comments coming in and have your say on your team. Alan, let's switch our attention to Crewe on opening day of the season then before we start to drool over some of the football and moves that we played against Grimsby. To be fair, I thought they were there against Crewe. I think we were perhaps a little bit unlucky to come away with just the point. But I guess when you go down to 10 men and you do have that little bit of ring rustiness in terms of that first goal that we gave away, I think all in all it's a fair result.
I just got my thoughts entirely. I just thought it was a good point to come away with. I know some people say, we've dropped 2 points, but I could see Mansfield at position would have lost that game. And, it didn't look as though that was going to happen. I watched the highlights back and it just looked comfortable even when they had 10 men. Looked really comfortable. And it bodes well for future matches. I think the playing style is there. Everybody knows exactly what they're going to be doing or what they've been told to do, asked to do, whatever. It just looks good, from back to front.
Yeah, I was just going to say there, Taras, I think even with 10 men, we looked in control of the game, which is something you certainly wouldn't have expected or thought of for Mansfield last season in that position.
Absolutely. No, completely agree. I thought when Aikens ran into the box and blasted it towards goal and it hit Oates, I mean, that was definitely going. I thought even with 10 men, there was only going to be one winner. Dare I say, I know you and I have spoken about this before, Craig, dare I say, it's probably one of the only post-match interviews that I've watched where I've agreed with more or less everything Clough has said. I thought he kind of just summarized everything that we've just been talking about very, very well. And if you weren't counting how many players were on the pitch, you wouldn't have known that we were down to 10 men. So I think it bodes well for the future. It shows that the mentality has. I think it's maybe changed a little bit inside the camp, which is good. Because definitely last season, I agree. I think that's a game that they would have gone on to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep your comments coming in. Let's, Alan, we've got a direct question for you. What time is my bin being collected? No,
it's it's 2 different eras, though. I can understand what Paul's saying, but it's 2 totally different eras. I mean, you've got your Barry Foster, Colin Foster, Kevin Bird, and Sandy Pate. We're talking legends, all 4 of them. And there weren't many people who could get past them. But, obviously, with the defenders that we've got now, your Kilgore, your Flint, I'm starting to like Callum a lot. And I weren't struck of him. And I must admit, he's made me eat my own words because he gets up and down that wing like one out, don't he? And he's not frightened to take a man on. But I think it's just different eras, but the back 4 that we've got. Yes, Paul, I do.
Yeah, I'll come on to the Callum Johnson thing a little bit later on because there's a reason that I've called tonight's episode Metronome. So more on that in a little bit. But just for the audio listeners, the question which Paul posed to Alan was, would Alan think that this defence that we have now is as good as the defence the Stags had back in the 70s? Going back to Crewe, Craig says, I do think if we'd have kept 11 early days and the players will become sharper and quicker. Scott says, last season when Leyton Orient came to the mill, you could tell they was the best side in the league with the way they passed us off the park all game. I know it's early doors, but we look so comfortable in possession, just like they did. And I think, like Nigel Clough sort of said in his post-match interview on Tuesday, Taras, as well, we've been trying to play this way for a long time. And actually, if you think back to when we got to the playoff final, we were playing this way. We remember when we were talking about a midfield of Ollie Clark, Ryan Stirk, George Maris at the start of that campaign, and we were saying it's one of the best midfields in League Two. Well, only one of those players has left the club, and we've kept the other 2 and added quality in that areas. I still think we've got one of the best midfields in League Two, but the problem was last season we weren't consistent enough. We changed system. We've gone back to the system and the way of and the better, more adaptable way of playing, which we did in that playoff season. And I think it's starting to show again. So, yeah, we've been trying to play it a long time, but I think finally we've got not only the right jigsaw pieces, but also the right jigsaw picture that Nigel Clough is putting together.
Mm-hmm. And you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe we have been playing this way, and like you said, just haven't had the right pieces. Obviously when Lapsley was sold last season, I think a few people were a bit kind of what's going on here. But when you look at who they brought in, I believe it was in January, they brought Keeler, Dunn, and Reed in.
Yeah.
And obviously you look at the start that Keeler Dunn's had to this start of this season. Boateng kind of looks like he's benefited from a good summer as well. I don't think he quite kicked on kind of as he would have hoped last season. But yeah, I mean, like midfield, I wouldn't say is the issue really. So far, I know it's only 2 games. It's kind of difficult to pinpoint an issue. So long may it continue. As long as they play, you look at Saturday's performance obviously away from home. If you can play like that at home, you're going to boss a lot of teams. You're going to turn a lot of teams over. So just hopefully people can stay fit. Obviously, it's going to limit, if people stay fit, it's going to limit Clough having to, chop and change and potentially change shape. So hopefully, like I said, health is going to be a big one.
More questions for Alan. This one, which colour bin does my milk bottle go in? No. I'm in a daft mood. Been in the sun all day. It's from Craig, and it says, Alan, does Kilgore remind you of George Foster? He does me.
Most definitely. Run through a brick wall.
He's
and he's got goals in him as well. And
yeah.
I know Foster, I don't think he scored, a hatful of goals, but I think Kilgore could do that. He's got that in his armoury. And yes, he does. He reminds me very much of George Foster.
And there's another question on Kilgore as well. Taras, I'll put this one to you. Will Kilgore stay captain? It was quite interesting and a little bit funny on Tuesday night to see it, because obviously Ollie Clark came off the bench and got a little bit of minutes in the tank. Ollie Clark is club captain, and whenever he came off the bench last season, James Perch straight away would go and give him the captain's armband. He came on, Kilgore went to give him the armband, and Ollie Clark went no, and kept it with him. So I don't think there's anything in that. I mean, I'm all for I said this a few weeks ago. There's more than one type of captain for me. I think I was having this conversation at Crewe. There's 3 types of captain. There's a club captain who is a caring person off the pitch. Is your missus okay? Is your kids settling into schools? You need anything? You need any support? That sort of thing, which I think Ollie Clark does really, really well. Someone who's a caring player, a go-to guy, the sort of guy that, if you had a problem, you could give him a ring and he'd sit and talk to you on the end of a phone. A club man. Then there's a head it, kick it, you do this, you do that sort of captain, a leader on the pitch, a vocal leader on the pitch, which Kilgore certainly fits into. And then there's an all-rounder, someone who will do the club captain side of things, the love, the care, the whole package, but also someone who lives and bleeds the football club, which the last one for me we had was Adam Murray. And I think we're getting in Alfie Kilgore reminds me of Christian Pearce's leadership style, and for me, I'd see no reason why, unless Ollie Clark came back into the team and was starting games on a regular basis, I see no reason why Clough would take it off Kilgore. I think Kilgore's certainly one for the future, and maybe it's a sign of things to come.
Completely agree. I think when you look at when Kilgore came into the club last season, he acclimated really well. And the thing is, I mean, the elephant in the room is Clark he hasn't really been available throughout when you look at like the last calendar year. So, I don't see any harm in having Kilgore at, obviously he's at the back and having that kind of strong, demanding presence. Being a captain, I see no issue with it.
Yeah, Alan, what about you?
I think it all depends how many games Ollie Clark plays. If he comes to the front and gets fit, I think he would be the first choice. But, like you said, and everybody, there's 1 or 2 other comments about Kilgore, I wouldn't have a problem him being captain. And, you don't know what goes off behind the scenes. It might be, like a penalty taker. That's Aiken's job. He goes and picks the ball up. Now Clark might, as soon as he comes on, that might be the way to go. I don't really know.
Here's a question for you. Would he even get in the side now? Who would he replace?
Taras, it's like you read my mind, because that was literally the question that I was going to next.
Yeah.
A fully fit Ollie Clark would always be in my team.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying, and I know who would he replace? Probably at the moment, it's hard to say replacing anybody.
Yeah, it is.
But a fully fit, or guns blazing Ollie Clark would be in my team.
Yeah,
because he's that type of player.
I have to agree. I don't think we've seen the best of Ollie Clark this calendar year, with injuries and whatnot. He's a loyal club man. It's only his second club after the Bristol Rovers, and he's in his 30s. He is a good player. He just needs to stay fit and injury free. It's tough to see who he would come in and replace in the midfield as it is at the minute, and I think he'll have to really work really hard to get back in. But on the flip side of that, that's actually great, because if those three players are performing ahead of him and getting in the side, also as captain, his mindset is, I have to set the example. I have to be the one who sets the example. So he works 4 times as hard to get back into that starting lineup.
Yeah, it's quite frustrating, I think is the word I'm after. With him, all these calf injuries, because it always seems to be the calf. With Ollie, I just hope there's not going to be a long running saga this season where, he plays 2 or 3 games and then gets a calf, because last season, it might not be as bad this season, because last season, sometimes they rushed back a little bit too soon because of the players that we needed for the injuries. But that's touchwood. That's not the case this year. So they might ease him back in, and it might alleviate that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just a little bit on that Grimsby game then on Tuesday night. First home game of the new season, first competitive home game anyway, against a fellow League Two side in Grimsby. And to be fair, it was a 2-0 win, Taras, but it could have been a lot more. And I think it was arguably one of the best footballing displays we've seen at One Call Stadium from a Mansfield side in a long time. Looked in complete control, and it was great to watch. Fluid, fast-paced, energetic, edge of the seat stuff, and I think that's probably only maybe 60% of what we're actually capable of delivering.
Unfortunately, I couldn't make it on Tuesday, but from everything I read and everything I saw, the highlights and whatnot, it looked like a similar game to how they set up at Crewe. Obviously, just getting the win this time. I did go onto Grimsby's Twitter page, and even their fans were saying fair play. You just completely played us off the park, and obviously going there in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully can replicate that that same effort away at their place.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that did happen on Tuesday night, Alan, was Jordan Bowery bingo, and that was an appearance at left back for the Stags, number 9.
To be fair, I thought he had a decent game. I think everybody did, basically, but I think he did all right. I mean, second half, he came more into his own. He was up and down the wing, like Callum was on the other side, and I thought he had a reasonable game, to be fair.
Would he be your left back on Saturday afternoon, though, or would you be playing Bailey Cargill?
If Bailey Cargill hasn't got the back spasms, I would put Cargill there, definitely. Or even Lewis, and put Maris in.
Yeah.
Because Lewis can play there as well, can't he?
Yeah, he can play. Lewis can play right back, and then you put Johnson at left back, which I'm surprised Clough didn't try and exploit or at least tinker with on Tuesday night. But that said, this might be a controversial comment for some, but I actually think if you take Aaron Lewis out of that central midfield role on that right-hand side of that midfield 3, not only do you lose a good midfielder who can get on the ball and create, but I think you also weaken Callum Johnson's game. I think those two are going to have a really good partnership down that right-hand side. I agree with Alan there. I wasn't massively impressed with Johnson last season. I know he sort of had a bit of an injury. He's got himself fit this pre-season, but with Lewis ahead of him, they understand each other's roles and they just work in tandem. Yeah. And actually, when Lewis went off on Tuesday night, Johnson's game dipped a little bit, not massively, but you could see it dipped, and you could see it wasn't quite working. Those two are going to be a good key partnership.
And I mean, to be able to keep George Maris out the team, you've got to have something about it, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think the more games he plays in that role, I know he's played there before, but I know he's more of a defensive player. Clough will give him that freedom to get forward, Taras.
Yeah.
I think it will be a positive move for us, because understanding more than one role is obviously a Nigel Clough trait, but it's having there's understanding roles, and there's understanding it and being able to execute it, which I think Lewis does well.
Agreed. Clough didn't definitively say that Cargill was out against Morecambe, did he? He just mentioned he's got the spasms. So
no,
So
he just said when he put Flint on, Flint in the team, and he said he could do with some minutes, and that's why I only gave him 70 because he said Cargill had a couple of spasms in his back, but he's feeling okay now. But it just made sense, didn't it, to give Flint the shirt and then put Cargill on for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the only change that is going to be made from last Saturday is obviously McDonald being red carded, right? So hopefully that's the only change. But I mean, hopefully the squad depth's a little bit stronger this year. So again, hopefully it's a good issue for Nigel to have.
It is, and we're talking, in good context about Bailey Cargill being able to adapt at left back. We're talking about Flint, probably staking a claim to play regularly there alongside Alfie Kilgore. But what we've not mentioned is we've still got George Williams on the fringe as well. He's by no means going to be a defender that will just come in and play a few games. He's a promotion winner a number of times up and down League One and League Two. And, you don't do that by playing the odd game. He's got a very good reputation. So, again, it's food for thought.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough because Chris Revel wasn't there on Tuesday, so I was lucky enough to interview George Williams about 6:45. And he spoke very well, and he said he can play anywhere along the back line, but tonight his favourite position is centre-back, even though he's not very tall. He says he thoroughly enjoys playing there, and he says he's probably 2 weeks away.
Yeah, that's not bad. I think that will probably come just fall right for that Sheffield Wednesday game in the Cup, and then obviously you've got the Papa Johns around that time as well, plus the introduction of the Reserve League. I actually think, I think a good cup run is vital. I know a few people say, well, if you get through the first round of the Carabao Cup, it's an extra fixture. If you get through the Papa Johns, it's an extra fixture. For us this season, with the squad we've got, keeping everybody fit and available, cup runs are going to be vital to keep giving players minutes and keep giving Nigel Clough headaches.
Agreed.
I think it goes hand in hand. You get a good cup run, and you keep the momentum going, and keep the same side, touch wood, with no big injuries, it can only bode well. That it can, because, I mean, eventually, third round, the big boys come in, and who knows where you can go. Yeah, I know we've got to beat Wednesday first.
I think it's doable. If you look at last season's FA Cup game, even when we were nowhere near as strong as what we are now, but again, we nearly beat them then. They've gone through a lot of change this summer as well. They're vulnerable. We can beat them.
Yeah,
it's a winnable game, definitely.
Completely agree.
Final thoughts on that Grimsby game then, Taras. And there's one person in particular I want to talk about, and that's Rhys Oates. We're talking all about our new signings and giving them and things like that. But Oates, obviously, last season didn't get the service that he wanted, didn't quite have the season that he would have wished for either.
No.
Back in a formation which now suits him, how key is it that for his mentality going forward this season that he got on the score sheet on Tuesday night, especially considering the absolute howler, which, it's still in the air.
It's vital. I think it's vital that he has a good season. Last season he just didn't really find his form, did he? I think it was just kind of a mixture of things. I don't think he was ever fully fit. Saturday I felt a bit sorry for him. Obviously he was at fault for the first goal. Went to go, the corner came in and he kind of just duffed it and it fell and Dimitri was right there just to curl it past Pim. And then obviously, like I said earlier, with the Aikens when he ran into the box, and I don't know what Oates was doing, but he did some good things on Saturday, and by all accounts, obviously played well on Tuesday. Good for him to get off the score sheet. Like Nigel said, forget if it was after Crewe or if it was after Grimsby, but if you're a striker, you want to be scoring goals. You don't want to be getting 5, 6, 10 games into the season, and but you want fitness as well. So I think with Reece, I think it's a bit of both. I think obviously you want to see him on the score sheet. At the same time, you also just want to see him on the pitch, which obviously he didn't. He kind of struggled with a bit last season. So, but obviously if he's firing on all cylinders, it can only bode well for the club.
Yeah, and he's getting in some good positions now, and I think we got a real glimpse of the old Reece.
I think he's got something else to his game. Yeah. I've noticed he's not as green. You know, the one that you said is still up there. It actually, I was looking straight at him, and it bobbled just before he hit it. It didn't actually bobble. It wasn't flat, So I think I can let him off with that one.
Yeah. I think with a player like Reece, I think I'd be more concerned if he wasn't getting into the positions, which he wasn't last season. If he's getting into the positions, but it's just maybe not falling for him, like you said, Alan. If it bobbles as he's about to shoot, at least he's there. You know what I mean? At least he's in the position. Yeah. So it'll fall for him, like I said, as long as he stays fit. But I mean, you could say that about anybody in the side. But obviously, he's a key piece to our attacking options. So
yeah,
he is definitely
certainly is, and obviously Lucas Aikens burying that penalty as well taken. Good for him to get off the.
He's looked good. He's looked good as well. To be fair, he's looked really good through 2 games. So hopefully he can keep it up.
It's a tongue-in-cheek comment, but it's funny what happens when you play a formation, Alan, which brings the best out of the players that you've got, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing what happens, isn't it? Like I said before, Quinn on the back post waiting for Oates to put them through balls in for him, where he just taps them in, nods them in, whatever. It is looking really good, but I just don't think he's as greedy as he was last year. But I mean, the times he got the ball on Tuesday night, when he shouldn't have been anywhere near it, with his speed, his pace, his tenacity, he's just, in my opinion, just a top player. Yeah. He really is.
I think, if anything, last season he probably tried a bit too hard.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think with him last year, there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He'd obviously had the injury the season before, but before that had a superb spell where he was, everything he touched turned to gold. And then when we changed the system, he just couldn't get back into it. And Will Swan obviously started well. And again, Will Swan we've got now, but he's obviously out injured at the minute. And to be honest, if he was fit and available on Saturday afternoon, would I put him straight into the starting 11? No, I wouldn't, because I think what we've got at the minute, I think Aikens, Keeler Dunn and Oates are forming a really good forward line. And I love the fact that we're not playing with a flat 3. We've got Keeler done with that little bit of roll and that roll to room in behind and really open the gaps. It's proving fruitful thus far. So long may that continue. Right, still lots more to talk about. As always, you can have your say on your team in the comments. Keep your comments coming in. We're going to talk a little bit more about Tuesday night's man of the match and why I think he and Lewis are the beating heart of our team at the minute. Plus, we're going to have a little look at extra time. Anyone else a little bit surprised that there was only 2 minutes on Tuesday night when there was about 75 minutes everywhere else? We'll talk more about that and how it can impact on your tactics. And we'll look ahead to that game on Saturday afternoon as the Stags welcome Morecambe to the One Call Stadium. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast, proud to be part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. Welcome back to the Mansfield Matters Podcast, the show for the fans, by the fans, coming to you live from a Premier Inn in Cardiff tonight with a little work trip for me. The only time this week I've got to do it, and we're in hotel Wi-Fi. So far, so good. It's all going swimmingly well. Watch it go downhill now.
You've just jinxed it.
I know. Yeah. I've just jinxed myself. I know, it's all good fun. But if the sound is a little bit different, that is why. And I've also got a fan on the go just over here because it's absolutely boiling in here. And being a ginger, I've been outside in the sun all day. I am burned. Let me tell you that I am absolutely burned. You can probably see there. I look like
I can see that.
Like an absolute squash. I'm not even going to bother showing you my legs. Anyway, let's get back to talking about Mansfield, shall we? I know I won't. And of course, Tuesday night, I know we were just talking about it, but there's one more person that I do want to talk about, and that's from both Tuesday and Saturday, and that is Lewis Reed. Obviously signed in January, but then got the injury on his debut and didn't really come back in until the very end of the campaign. And he's worked really, really hard in closed season, Alan, to get up there, and you can really tell why he's one of the most sought-after midfielders in the league. He is next level.
And they're saying I did the man of the match interview with him after, and I called him the Mansfield Perlo. just think he was that good. Everything he touched turned to goal. You know, the 25-yard pass every time he looked at Quinney, every time he looked at Callum Johnson, it was there every time on the money. And he's just bossing it, isn't he? At the moment, he's thoroughly enjoying his football, I think.
Yeah, and what I love about him, Taras, is the fact that he actually doesn't want the ball. If you watch him play, he moves into gaps, he pulls defenders away. He does not want the ball. And when he gets the ball to feet, just count. Honestly, on Saturday, just count. He does not keep the ball for more than 3 seconds, 5 max, because he pops it off, creates space. Yeah. And he's the driving force. He's the link between the two. Sitting just in front of the back four is been really, really well in that role. I know he'll probably want to play a little bit higher, but actually it really suits him and complements us more. And for me, I like him to a metronome because he just is that little tap, 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 just constantly keeping that beat, keeping that rhythm, keeping us ticking over without actually doing too much. And I think my worry would be if we do miss him for a few games, I think it will really, really show that we miss him.
Yeah, agreed. I think one of them, well, I guess probably the most important thing that I admire about him is like any good midfielder, before he even gets the ball, he knows what he's going to do with it. Kind of like what you were alluding to. Before the ball even comes to him, I think he's already identified which side of the pitch he's going to go, who he's going to give it to. He can kind of identify, through balls quite well, long passes, short passes. So he's sitting in front of that back four. I think he's a tremendous asset. He was another one that kind of came in and kind of struggled a little bit, I think, to adapt. But hopefully now with a good summer behind him, good preseason, it'll just kind of become like clockwork with him.
Yeah, and he's never really had injuries in his career up until last season. And the reason, once he gets more games under his belts, and we're only 2 games in, he's still forming partnerships. And I think him, Quinn, and Lewis will be difficult to shift in that midfield 3. They understand each other's roles. They complement each other in terms of space and things like that, which is great. But I think another thing with Lewis Reed, I think, is that thing of just moving that ball. I think for me, Alan, is what we expected Hiram Boateng to be, but the difference is that he's capable of using both feet.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like Taras said, I don't think he had a really good, a productive season. Boateng last year, he came into his own towards the end of the season, I think, and started playing quite well. And I think he could be the foil if ever Quinn gets injured, or he needs to come off. If he gets hot-headed, whatever, because he's a good left-sided player, and he will drop into that role of what Quinn does. Not as good as Quinn, because he's still doing the business at 37. But Lewis Reed is something else. After Tuesday night, to a head and shoulders. Although Lewis did play well. Yeah,
and that's the thing. I think Lewis Reed's performance just sort of maybe took the limelight away from Aaron Lewis. But again, he's another one who won't do much on the ball. He'll drive with it when he has it, Taras, but again, he moves into space and he allows Callum Johnson to get forward. And with the way that Nigel Clough wants to play, getting those fullbacks up the pitch, that's exactly the type of midfielder that I want in that role. I almost don't want our midfield to get on the ball. I want them to pull players into spaces and open up gaps for us to exploit.
Yeah, and I was just before you finish, I was just going to say, like, if you've got two fullbacks that are stretching the other team, it's going to create space for everybody else. So you can kind of see and kind of understand why Clough wants to play the way he wants, why he wants to play the way he's playing. And obviously, like we were saying earlier, I think he's finally got, so it seems so far anyway, he's got the right pieces to do that.
Yeah, certainly has. Right, let's come to some more of your comments. Keep them coming in and have your say on your team. Craig says, without running away with ourselves, I do feel more confident with our squad this season, including the numbers. We seem to have each position covered twice over, albeit some can play in multiple positions. Paul adds, I think this is the best and most balanced team we've had in years. Scott says, without doubt, I think this is the best squad we've had since we lost against Huddersfield all those years ago. All over the pitch, we're strong, no doubt. James Gale is somebody I can't wait to see more of. His time will come, but I think he could be a real weapon for us off of the bench, especially late on in games. Paul says, Lewis Reed's playing very well at the moment. Why are the players getting injured so early in pre-season? Is there training? John says, hi guys, been a while, hope you're all okay. Chris says, Reed is the icing on the cake of a very capable midfield. Stag Chat adds, we have goal scorers in the mix. This team will gel quick from the first 11 to the subs, and the hype of the season's ticket sales will push them even further. Scott says, I thought when Reed played last year, you could see he wasn't 100% fit, but now he looks another level, fit as a fiddle, tackling hard, best passer I think we have. Anthony Hartigan, though, we haven't seen the best of him yet, and he's like for like replacement if Reed gets injured. Again, Hartigan, I have a real frustration with this because we didn't need him then and we still don't need him now, but he's a very capable player. But now any player that comes with a title in their name, which includes the word specialist, I automatically want more from them. We now have defenders and able bodies in that squad who are capable of doing damage from set pieces. Anthony Hartigan is a set piece specialist. So when he's on the pitch, I expect us to be scoring from set pieces.
Well, that's fair comment, because he did come with that mantle, didn't he? There was quite a few clubs after him, apparently, and we was lucky enough to get his signature. But I agree with the commenter, says, I think he will come good, given the chance. But he's just going to have to, it's like George Maris. I've always been saying that if Maris plays well, Mansfield play well. But at the moment, he just can't get in the side. And, fair play to Nigel for keeping the same team. But I think Hartigan will come good.
Here's one for you. All of you midfielders are fit and available. Who's the three that you're playing? Because I don't think we could actually agree on a three. Alan, I'll let you go first. And I
think there'd be a few permutations, wouldn't they? I would, at this present time, as much as I love George Maris, I would leave it as it is.
But if you were hypothetically, you're Nigel Clough, you've got all midfielders available, regardless of how you've been playing. Yeah. Who's your first choice three? Who's your top three?
A tough one, that is. I would say Quinny, because you can't knock the bloke, whether he's 37 or not. I'd probably put Lewis in there for his tenacity, and probably I might drop Maris at the side of him.
Okay, so you'd put Maris in for Reed.
Oh no! Oh, sorry. No, I'd leave Reed where. Reed's a shoe-in.
Oh, so you drop Lewis. It'd be Quinn, Reed, and Maris. Your top three would be Quinn, Reed, and Maris.
No, it would be. I see what you mean now. It would be Quinn, Lewis, and Reed at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, so you'd stick that Nigel Clough's got.
Yeah,
Taras, what about you? Everybody's fit and available. So we're talking Ollie Clark, Hiram Boateng, Anthony Hartigan, George Maris, and the rest. Who's your top three?
Maris is in there for me. It's a tough one, isn't it? It really is difficult.
It is.
It's a
good conundrum to have.
It is. That's the thing, and it's not something that Nigel's been used to. So, it's good. I mean, we're talking about like how many players aren't in the side right now, just through injury and whatnot. Flint came off the bench at Crewe, obviously because of the red card. If you got him on the bench, if Clark's fit and available, who are you taking out now? So let's just say, for argument's sake, he's on the bench. Boateng's on the bench. Craig, you said if Swan was fit, you wouldn't have him starting. So he's on the bench. It's, you know what I mean? But even if you took players that were in the side now and you replaced them with the players I just mentioned, are we any weaker? You know what I mean? It's a good problem to have. I'm trying to think who played at Crewe. He went with Quinn, Lewis.
Same three. Yeah, Quinn, Reed, and Lewis. Yeah, with the three.
I hate to say it. I don't know where Hartigan fits in. I just,
I'm sure he's a lovely guy, and I'm
it's
sure
nothing personal. I don't hate the guy, but
no, he's a good player. But it's, for me, if I was making a list of a pecking order of midfielders that I would put in any combination, Anthony Hartigan and feel free to shoot me down with it, and Hiram Boateng they're the bottom two in my list. Honestly,
I think Hartigan will come good if Reed gets injured, because I think if they're like for like players, he can do that role. But obviously he's got to be given chance. But at the moment, he's not getting anywhere near because of how Reed's playing.
I said earlier, I think Boateng has stepped up a level. That's not to say he's blown past. No. I'm just saying he's improved. I'm not saying I would put him in the starting 11. I just think he looks a little bit more comfortable on the ball. He's more willing to kind of go into tackles. He looks a little bit more engaged when he's out there. I'm not saying I'd have him, first name on the team sheet or anything like that. He just looks a little bit more comfortable to me.
He looks comfortable on the ball when it's on his left foot, but if you put Hiram Boateng with the football at his right foot, you might as well play me, because that guy is useless with the right foot. He has no right foot.
No, fair point.
To be fair, it's balanced out with a tremendous left foot.
Yeah.
But the amount of times that he gets into that position, the ball comes across the edge of the box, and you're thinking, hit this with your right, that's curling in.
You're right,
he has to turn back onto his left every single time because he can't use his right foot. And that's another reason why he goes down the pecking order for me, because Ollie Clark, right foot, left foot, can use it.
Yeah. I was just about to say that, because Ollie Clark wouldn't have a problem, would he?
No, in fact, I was watching Ollie Clark in the warm-up against Crewe. He did a little bit of light work, and he was rasping him in with his left foot and his right foot. And again, feel free to shoot me down. But like a lot of the comments are saying, it's going to be a headache picking the whole team. But with 20 extra minutes on each game, it's going to be starters and finishers. Hartigan could be the one you bring on for the last 20 minutes if you're a goal down, chasing a draw, supporting set plays, says Craig. But again, Maris can do it. Arguably, I think Maris puts the ball in. It's a good conundrum to have. Will Hartigan get loaned out? I don't think Nigel Clough will, let anybody other than John Joe O'Toole leave. Let's be honest. I think if there is going to be one that goes out, it will probably be him, which is a shame. But
he's injured though, isn't he?
Well, Nigel Clough says he's injured. I don't know. But like I said last week, once he's grown his hair back, he'll look identical to Aidan Flint bar the height.
Flint, yeah.
If Clough's half asleep, he might get a game. So there you go. Bring back. John says, bring Jamie Maguire back and the old crew, and still think them guys could give the others a run out. Players need to wear it from their sleeves like the old players. Jamie would have stopped half of the attacks. I'd still put a Jamie Maguire now above Hiram Boateng and Anthony Hartigan. Just saying. Anyway, shall we move on before I start getting death threats sent to this hotel in Cardiff?
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably should. Let's talk let's talk time, because on Saturday at Crewe there was a big number of additional minutes added on as they were up and down the country. I think it's more tactical management point of view. 5 subs still this season, which I'm a big fan of. But I just think tactically in those minutes, it could be a real thing where managers earn their money.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Craig. Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, he's got all the tools he can implement whenever he wants to, as long as he can use 5. But, you have to do them in a certain manner and order, don't you? You can only bring so many on at whatever time and whatever. But, yeah, I would definitely agree with that, because it could change a game if it was, drawing 2 minutes to go, whatever, and then they put the 9 minutes up or whatever. You've got 9 minutes for your people like Gale or Swan to go and make a big difference.
Yeah. Also, the comment about Jamie Maguire is actually watching. Evening, Jammer. Hope you're well.
All right, Jammer.
Keep your comments coming in. Craig says, we've not mentioned Pim much. Jury's still out for me and would like to see Flinders get some minutes. Maybe Papa John's trophy. Yeah, we've not mentioned Pim because we're running out of time. I'm sure the time will come to talk about him a little bit more. Scott says you could pick so many combos there with the options. It's a long season. I agree with the Boateng comment. Last third of last year he came good. Looks decent so far this year. It's exciting. You need a squad to get promoted. I think if any player doesn't want to leave, doesn't want to be there, Clough would get rid like he did with DJ. Absolutely. Right, that is almost all we've got time for, because I've noticed my Wi-Fi is going a little bit dodgy in this hotel. Obviously, it's coming up to 8 o'clock, and there are clearly more people trying to get onto it, like Cam, visiting dodgy websites. So let's move swiftly on to podcast predictions. Now, I was trying to get the table up from this week just to see who was leading. But as I am on dodgy hotel Wi-Fi, if I do go a little bit, it goes a little bit. Why? I'm going to try and log back in and have a little look at who is leading. Before I manage to do that, Alan, final thoughts on the first two games so far.
Very positive. We all said last year that we thought it to be a bigger squad, to get us promoted. We've got that now. We've got the players in that matter who can take place of those if they get injured or, dip in form, whatever. And I'm very, very confident.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. I can't get the table up, so I'll have to reveal that for you next week. So without further ado, we definitely do need to change this because I'm not the master. But this was made spirit of Alan Wilson this week. Time for the guessing game, which brings you 0 fame. Play the jingle.
So will they win, lose or draw? And
doesn't want to play.
So will they win, lose or draw? And what will be the score? So will they win, lose or draw? And what will be the score? It's the guessing game that brings you 0 fame. But to be the best, you must outguess the rest. So will they win, lose or draw? And what will be the score? In the League or Cup, you just make it up because they're just works of fictions. It's podcast predictions. Will they win, lose or draw?
There clearly are people in this hotel trying to access some dodgy websites with that just playing quite randomly. Right, it is time for podcast predictions. Apologies for that. Nathan and Clive have both sent their predictions in ahead, and they've both gone for a 2-0 victory with Davis Keeler-Dunn being named man of the match. Tara, as soon as you're our guest this week, we'll hand over to you in this brand new podcast predictions game. Reminder that we're looking for the outcome for Mansfield goal scores, and then goals, a man of the match. And a reminder to those playing at home that in the goals scored column, we're looking for a figure, aka 2 or 3, and not names like Akins and O. So Taras, over to you.
So you just want the results. I'm going to say 3-1 Mansfield. You want all the goals?
And then man of the match.
Man of the match?
No, just man of the match.
Good question. I'm going to say Kilgore.
There we go. Alan, over to you.
I would go exactly the same score, 3-1. And I would go Akins.
Akins. Okay. I am going to go brave. I am going to go 4-1 win. And the man of the match will be Rhys Oates. So again, if you want to play along with podcast predictions, the link that you need is in the description, and you'll find all the rules on there as well. That is almost all we've got time for. Taras, thanks so much for joining us tonight. You've had some really good impacts on the show. Please do feel free to join us again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what's your final thoughts ahead of Morecambe and the rest of the season? How are you feeling 2 games in?
Very positive, like Alan said earlier. It's been a very positive start to the season. Morecambe's a little bit of an unknown, just with them getting relegated last season. I do think Mansfield will win. Just like we've discussed before, Craig, it's just all about injuries and keeping the squad fit. I think as long as Nigel and his team can do that, then there's no reason why can't kick on and hopefully potentially get automatic at the end of the season. So all comes down to squad fitness, and you can see what he's trying to accomplish and how he's trying to play. Just hopefully he's got the resources to do that.
Absolutely right. That is all we've got time for tonight. Alan, rest up the voice and hope that you're better for Saturday afternoon. Otherwise, you really will be giving it your best Barry White impression. And Taras, thanks again for joining us. And thanks to you at home for joining us as well. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Long may this sexy, fluid football continue, and long may this winning feeling continue as well. We've got a long season ahead, and I can't wait to watch the rest of it unfold. We'll see you next time. Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's podcast. I hope that the Premier Inn Wi-Fi managed to stay strong throughout and that you didn't experience too many technical difficulties tonight. Technically, I am in a different country to everybody else, so, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, as always, don't forget to get involved on social media throughout the week. And of course, continue the guessing game, which brings you 0 fame in podcast predictions. The link that you need is in the description. And a reminder that you must enter no later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kickoff on Saturday afternoon. Right, that's it from me in Wales and from everybody else as well. We will see you next time on the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast. Good night.